everyone, I'm just gonna do a really short review on Love is the Higher Law by David Levithan. I gave this 4 stars on Goodreads. This book is centered around 9/11 and it follows 3 characters, a girl named Claire, a guy named Jasper, and another guy named Peter, and it just switches between their perspectives as they go through their day and then what happens afterward, and it's just kind of like a time chronological thing of what happens while 9/11 is occurring, directly after, then skipping like a year and just how they deal with it. I went into this really excited because I love David Levithan a lot. I'm a huge David Levithan fan. So I was like, this is going to be so inspiring and he's going to have so many insightful things to say. And then he said in the author's note, I was in New York during 9/11, so I was like, oh, so this is going to be great. It's like going to be like personal. But I was, I guess, let down a little bit because it was really character-based, and I know it seems like it should be, but I guess I was expecting more of seeing the event, but it was more of how the characters felt about it. And the thing about that was, even though they were talking about, like, oh, this is what I was feeling and this is how it affected me, I just felt like it wasn't really based around 9/11. I feel like it was more of like a self-discovery novel during the 9/11 time. So if you're going into this expecting some huge, mind-blowing, life-changing 9/11 experience story, none of these characters were actually there. They were just watching it and reflecting. So that might just have been a thing I was let down on because I was expecting them to be like in the action, but just a warning, if that's what you think this was going to be about, it's not. One thing that I really loved, though, that I mentioned briefly, was that David Levithan was there, and so although this isn't about his experiences, he was still able to put some of that personal touch into the story, because I could tell you facts about 9/11. I could tell you down to the minute when each of the airplanes struck. We just talked about it in history class, but then I had never read or heard anyone speak about, never in my life have I heard someone describe the smell of what it was like after 9/11, and it never came across my mind like people couldn't live in their houses because it smelled like burning rubber and all that different stuff. And it was so much more than just information. It was a real experience, and it was so cool because at some point one of the boys walked in their front yard and found papers that had been in the building, like statistic papers that had been blown all the way to Brooklyn, and I was just blown away. That was so cool yet sad to me. I've never really heard about 9/11 in that way, where it's not just about the buildings falling, it's about what happens to the people around it. Just, it's on a way more emotional scale than we're used to being taught about. I love the way these stories between these 3 people intertwine because they do come together in the end, and I thought that was very beautifully written. As always, David Levithan writes beautifully, and I love everything he has to say. I wish I have this in the non-library form because I would be tabbing the hecky out of it. Lots of really good quotes, lots of really rememberable stuff. What I did like about this book was that the 3 people mentioned were all very different people. Even though 2 of them have kind of a relationship that will develop, they're still different, and I really liked that. And it does talk about how different they are and why that works. One of the boys has chapters, and I'm not sure what the symbolism is of this because it doesn't really fit with his character. I was just really curious, is that there's no breaks in the text. There's no indentations. It doesn't skip any lines. All the dialogue is put together in one paragraph. And I noticed this like halfway through the book, not realizing it was like that. And that's just something that's something that David Levithan does, is like, if you've read Will Grayson, he wrote his whole half of the story in all lowercase. He has a way of personifying his text to symbolize the person narrating it, and it's just genius to me. I loved it. Overall, it was just a really touching story about kids coming together. They were like seniors in high school, which is my age, and so it was really cool to see it from their perspective and how they would handle things and stuff like that. So really different from anything I've read before. I've never read a 9/11 book. Yeah, I think that's true. This, thumb up from me. It's really short. I read this really quickly. This isn't even 200 pages. So thank you for watching. I will see you next time. I'm really proud of myself. I've been doing a lot of reviews lately. So proud. Goodbye.